Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good
morning.
All right.
Morning.
Well, we are on another brisk November morning, at least here in Michigan. We're going to get rolling with our Voices of HealthPointe, our walk and talk for the next hour. We've got quite a docket lined up. Just to headline some elements of that, we're going to have kind of a combination, maybe with Carol and Eileen, talking about pitfalls, maybe 10 pitfalls of HealthPointe, and we're excited about that. We've got a special guest appearance by Jamika. She's going to be talking about some of her positive. And then I'm going to kind of thread the needle on where I think we might be heading in the coming handful of years in terms of some policies and so forth that are maybe behind us in this health and wellness space. But with that, with the tight schedule, the tight Saturday schedule, folks, Bruce and Eileen in Florida, we're going to lead off with you so you can get back to some things you need to attend to this morning. Good morning, Eileen. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking us on early. Yeah, so Carol asked me to share a couple things, and my glasses are all fogging up. I don't know if you can see that, but so this summer when we visited my daughter-in-law, our son, and she's like, you got to get some different clothes. You can't be wearing baggy clothes all the time out of the house. You look sloppy. And I'm like, oh. So we got some clothes for me, which I don't wear because they're tight. I don't like to wear jeans that are tight, especially in Florida. But I do look sloppy. So I bought some jean capris on Amazon. And they're cute, and little frayed edges. And I got them and I'm like, what? These stinking sizes are always so wrong. And I pulled them out. I'm like, that's not going to fit. And I'm like, well, I'll try it. I'll try it anyway. And I put it on. I'm like, what? How do I fit into this? And for those who don't know me, I've lost almost 75 pounds. I did lose 75, but I'm up a little bit. Pitfall, we'll talk about that. But I went into Bruce with my capris. I'm like, look at these stinking pants from Amazon. Look at this size. They're tiny. He's like, yep. I'm like, they fit me. So that's so exciting for me. Love it. But the pitfall thing I wanted to share was, we've done a few cruises while we were losing weight and did okay. But I thought I would do maintenance. I've already talked about that while we were on a cruise to Alaska, and that didn't work out, and gained quite a bit of weight, probably a lot of water, and I've been struggling with that now since we got home. I'm on my second cycle. I'm almost back down to my goal. But last weekend we had a church potluck and everybody brought stuff and there was a lot of sugar and I went overboard on sugar. And I want to tell you, every time I eat sugar now that I've been on HealthPointe for over a year, my body says, don't do it. My heart's racing. I almost felt like I had to go to the urgent care. I felt like I had high blood pressure or something. So that just motivated me to totally not do that anymore. I'm taking care of myself. And I wanted to share that, that I never really noticed that before, but HealthPointe has made me healthy and I shouldn't be eating that garbage. So I wanted to share that.
I think that's a wonderful thing to share because, I mean, on a number of fronts. One, just because we have done HealthPointe and successfully, I mean, 75 pounds, wow, it doesn't mean that we're immune from, other non-HealthPointe healthy choices. And in fact, it might be, and here's the positive spin on that is how many things, I think collectively as a community here, if we think about this, how many things did we do, consume, experience that we really didn't feel it because we were already kind of in that numb state. And suddenly when you get healthy, you feel these things, like in your case, the sugar effect. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yes. There's something about church. Church and sugar. So we were at a Friendsgiving dinner the other night, and everything went well until the dessert. And so I went up and I got a couple of small cookies, one for Hank, one for me. And of course, if you don't know me, cookie is my downfall. And I'm on maintenance. I've been on maintenance for years. So I had the cookie, and the next day I could really feel it. And I so relate to what Eileen is saying, that when your body is away from this stuff, wow, you really feel it. And what it does every time you feel yucky like that, it locks in me and sugar, me and cookies, not friends anymore. No, we don't go there. And it reminds you, and that's a good thing sometimes, to every once in a while eat something that used to be maybe a trigger food for you, and then see how you feel, how yucky you feel afterwards. And that locks in that we're not friends anymore. You don't belong here. You're not welcome. And so last night we went out to dinner, and of course I had my vitamin shakes before I go. There's a little hint. Whenever you go out to dinner, you don't want to go in there starving, because that's when you hit you hit the improper choices real hard. And so anyway, I went on there, and they had, I love crab cakes, and crab cakes in a good restaurant are filled with a lot of crab. And so I had that and a side salad. I was totally satisfied and absolutely delicious and light. And I came home feeling really good. And I thought, well, there you go. There's the difference. And so you remind yourself of that. And as I was saying to Eileen one day, ultimately you change your mindset. And that's what happens. Over a period of time, you ultimately, when you feel yucky, you start to change your mindset, and you start to associate, how do I feel when I eat this, instead of, do I want that? And so, yeah, I relate to what Eileen was saying.
Yeah, that's why I so appreciate, Eileen, you bringing this up. It's not something that we chat about too much here on the program, but it is very palpable for those of us that have gotten healthy, have, kind of cleaned up our systems in a way we're just way more sensitive to that. And that's a good thing, because if you were to take on this sugar, take on this other whatever, name your poison, so to speak, and not feel it, what does that say? Your body is very used to that. And so I think it's a very wonderful, vital sign that if you veer off and consume some of this, you get that kind of a shock to your system. I'll weigh in with my experience. In fact, as I'm looking into Zoom here, I can notice a bit of a puffiness, like more puffiness maybe than normal, around in my face, around my eyes. Well, what's that from? It was from eating out last night. We stopped at a Vietnamese place, wonderful place for Vietnamese soup called pho. And for those of you that know, my beautiful wife, Emily, and her family are originally from Vietnam. And so we were kind of on a road trip to the west side of the state yesterday, closing down the cottage. And we came back and stopped and had pho. And one thing I asked for is to not have all the noodles in there. And it's something that, so I'm just with the broth and the meat and so forth. But undoubtedly, they have a lot of other stuff in that broth that, like with Emily makes the pho, it's not going to have that. What are some of those things? Sugar. They add quite a bit of sugar to it, and a lot of salt. And guys, when I woke up this morning and did the www check-in that so many of us do in HealthPointe, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it was a little bit surprising at what my weight was. I know that is that sodium effect, that salt effect, that water retention effect. That will be gone in 24 hours. But it just goes to show again, whether it's sugar in, some of those settings, be it a cruise, be it a church function, or stopping and trying to make a healthy choice, but still you're victim to whatever they put into that broth in my case. And it's not a big deal, but I do see it in my face and on the scale this morning. So yeah, I think it's an important point.
Can I share one thing real quick about that, Erin?
Yes, for sure.
So Carol asked me what my A1C was before. And, you know, I didn't really track any of that stuff. And I did get the glucose monitor. We haven't done it yet. But so I pulled up all my old blood tests from Quest, and all my blood tests for the blood sugar were all in the red. And my doctor kept telling me, you're pre-diabetic, you're going to have to do something. I don't know what, but and I could eat sugar and didn't feel anything during those times. I could, but I was in a lousy health. And when we were on the cruise too, I had ice cream and I had this junk. Same thing. I cannot eat sugar hardly at all now, but I'm healthy. My blood sugar, my blood tests are awesome. So I just want to share that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's just another point of comparison to have. So that is great stuff. Great topic. Thanks for bringing this up, Eileen. Super great stuff. We're going to bring on kind of our next individual on the docket. Super excited about this. We've heard from her from time to time. Jamaica, that is.
Yes.
And Jamaica, good morning. And
Good
you've got some
morning.
things you want to share regarding your HealthPointe journey. And so you got the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Thank you all. I am actually new to the HealthPointe community. With the help of my fantastic coach, Kathy Munoz. I'm literally like just grateful for this program. I started back in, I would say, the latter part of June, early July. And I was 193 pounds. To this day, I am now down to 162 pounds.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome. Yay.
Yes, it is truly. When I tell people what I'm doing, when they ask like, "What are you doing? How are you losing so much weight?" I'm like, I actually forget that it isn't like a diet. It's truly a lifestyle change. This isn't a diet. And just listening to Eileen and Carol, and my body now feels like, and I know I still have a ways to go, but when I eat certain things, it makes me feel either sick or just different. I don't like sweets and things like that. I don't do anymore. So, Kathy has been very instrumental with me. And when I say hats off to Kathy, I mean, she's like one of the best coaches that, she works with me. And so I contribute a lot of my success at this point to her and the HealthPointe program. I wake up, I'm drinking my protein shakes and, getting these steps in, getting the steps up. It's just, you're well informed. So you're not jumping into something that, you don't know anything about. And just real quick, I won't stay on too long, but I used to last year, and I'm going to say a bad word right now. I actually tried Wegovy. And that is something that I feel should be taken off the market. Medications like that should be removed from the market. I was very sick, and I was losing weight, but the sickness, it just simply wasn't worth it. So I stopped, and I put on a lot of pounds and when I stopped. So something like HealthPointe is a great program because it is a lifestyle change, and you develop these atomic habits that are useful in your everyday life. Even from the way you eat to the way you live. So it's an excellent program. I'm staying with it, and I'm really happy with the results.
Oh my gosh. You say you don't want to stay on too long. We want you to keep staying on, keep talking. Jamaica. Well, hey, Coach Kathy, you're on the program here this morning too. Any thoughts or things that you would like to comment on as well?
Wow. Thanks, Jamaica. I mean, as you guys all know, HealthPointe has totally changed my life, and it's definitely kept me grounded throughout all of the hospital rigmarole with my other family members. And and I know Jamaica didn't share it, but her daughter was in the hospital not too long ago, and I reached out to her as a friend. Of course, I mean, we met at work, we became coworkers, we talked a little bit, we started to become friends. I shared HealthPointe with her, and now I told her the other day, she's my younger sister. I knew she was younger than me, and she confirmed it the other day at work. And I've had to yell at her with some sisterly advice about work. I've never had to yell at her with sisterly advice as a coach. Luckily, she's really paid attention to the HealthPointe thing, and now she's doing better about the work thing. And all I say about that is she works too much. We are a union job. At 4 o'clock, you need to shut that computer off and you're done. That's all I'm going to say. But going back to HealthPointe, I share it with everybody that I do come in contact with. And, luckily Jamaica realized that it was something that I truly could help her with, and I have reached out to other people and have wanted to truly help them. And, they just weren't ready. They aren't ready, whatever the story is. But, as we know in this community, it's up to us to try to share our knowledge and our experiences to help other people, because that's what it's all about. So I will just quickly say, just as an update, because I haven't done it recently, 2 years, 228 days today will be my 10,000 steps a day step count. So
wow. What was that? 2 years?
2 years, 228 days.
Excellent.
So over 2.5 years now. We're getting close to the 3-year mark already. It's hard to believe, and
we've
actually
so often said that with and Jamaica is a testament to this, that Kathy, you are leadership in the finest way, leadership by example, and an incredible example. And that's probably the most profound effect that on Jamaica is your example, be it walking and everything. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like I said, I just figured I'd just give a quick update, and I do want to preface that saying, the goal in HealthPointe is to get to 10,000 steps a day. It's not to start from 0 to 10,000. You'll kill yourself if you do that. Just be mindful of your own body and just build your steps every day. The whole time that I was on the program, I would say consistently, I probably did maybe 6,000 to 7,000 a day, but every day I did not do 10,000. I did not really take on this goal until 2 years and 228 days ago. So, and as, Jamaica mentioned about Atomic Habits, I shared that book with her right away. She instantly ordered it that day that I told her about it. I mean, I was even thinking of letting her borrow mine, and she's like, I ordered it, I'm good. So that's just something to keep in mind for anybody that's out there, thinking about the program. That book can really be kind of like a side manual to HealthPointe. And as Jamaica said, a side manual to your lifestyle change, because HealthPointe is so much bigger than just what you eat. So I guess with that, I will,
that Jamaica mentioned, just rolled right off her tongue about Atomic Habits. And I know, Kathy, you've often said that is the HealthPointe Bible, is Atomic Habits. And I'm like, wow, that's just so cool to hear Jamaica just talk about Atomic Habits. And I know that came from your influence. So awesome. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you again, Jamaica. Thank you, Kathy. And continued success, Jamaica. You've got the best coach. We've got the wonderful HealthPointe program, and just continued success. But and also thank you for weighing in there, no pun intended, weighing in there on Wegovy. We talk openly about other options, other products, and pros and cons. And I think this might be the first time, I don't know if somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first time we've actually had somebody on the program that talked about it from a first person experience? I'm trying to think if there's been anybody else. So absolutely, thank you for bringing that up, Jamika, because again, we can pontificate about things, we can get academic about things in the GLP-1 class of drugs, but to have you speak first hand from your experience with that product and how it made you feel, and kind of compare and contrast it to how you're feeling now. Love it. Really great. So, well, thanks again. Well, I'm going to take the next segment, and as I teed up at the opening docket, I'm going to, I kind of throw it out there, kind of try to thread the needle. I realize that I'm going to call out the elephant in the room here, which is that we just got through an election cycle here in the United States, and so I'm going to address that elephant in the room in this context. And as I thought through that, here's a way I kind of want to frame it. And the way I want to frame it is, when I'm thinking through this, I'm thinking, if, like literally me as an American, if there was an outcome of an election, and I'm being very facetious here just to make a point, and because I think probably none of us would affiliate strongly with a political structure like you would see in Russia, like, communism or anything like that. So the way I'm framing this and trying to think it through is, if the outcome of the election was different than I wanted, and in fact, the communists themselves took power, but there was something that was going to be a sea change, a possible sea change in the structural approach to the health of the nation. Now, again, not advocating communism, and I don't think that communism would do this, but if they did, and as much as I would be against communism, I think probably most people, certainly in this orbit of health and wellness, would be against communism. But let's even just say that there's some that are for communism. I'm just throwing it out there to kind of be way out there. If that political party got into power, and it meant that this decades run up of the American health system was going to perhaps take a change under this communist regime, such that it was going to put what I'm framing as tailwinds behind us and be pushing us in a more of a direction of dealing with things at the root cause, dealing with a health and wellness approach versus a headwind of always treating symptoms and chronic disease. That's kind of how I want to think of this, to be fair and on the one hand calling out the elephant in the room, but at the other hand trying to be very, very sensitive to, of course, all of us as Americans, we have varying, political frameworks, ideologies, and that is, inherent in the American structure. But what I want to focus on is that, based on what we've already covered here on previous episodes of Voices of HealthPointe, where we went through I don't even know if you want to call it a listicle. A listicle that you hear somebody go through might be 5 points, 10 points, 20 points. We've gone through a listicle done by the Dr. Casey Means and Kelly Means. And if you haven't heard those episodes, you can pull those up, where it's just a matter of statistical fact when you look at what's happened in the recent years, the recent decades, in terms of the health numbers of the American population. I mean, just to headline a handful of them, we as a country spend the most on our healthcare, and yet we have the highest incidence, across the board on chronic diseases. So we're talking type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and so forth. And moving forward with what Kelly Means spoke to is working to switch the incentive system. And he also is very careful to say this is not a matter of political ideology. This is something where if you just look at the fact that when you have a public corporation that has a vested interest to its shareholders, a duty to their shareholders to return profits, a profits per share, if that mechanism is better served by people, clients that are taking a pharmaceutical, maintaining a monthly or regular dependence on that pharmaceutical, if that drives up the profits of that corporation, then that is what's going to increase and grow. And we've seen that. It's just a matter of pure facts and statistics in terms of now over 128 million Americans are pre-diabetic or diabetic, and we could go through all those list numbers and so forth. That may, with Kelly Means being behind this in part, that may start to change, meaning these headwinds where those of us that are out trying to talk with people about health and wellness, trying to talk with people about how to address root causes of obesity, of type 2 diabetes, of chronic inflammation, disrupted immune system, have kind of been feeling like we're routinely kind of shouting into the wind, into these headwinds of a system that is kind of against us. And I've had it happen a couple of times even this past week where still people are like, yeah, but I can just, get my insurance card out and get this drug to address this symptom. And these are the headwinds that we willingly fight and lean into, these headwinds, and try to get that next person to start to adopt a healthy system so that maybe they can reduce their dependency upon these pharmaceuticals and drugs that treat their symptoms. And so we may see a shift from these strong headwinds that have been building for years, for decades, and we fought valiantly into those headwinds, one person at a time, and built out this global HealthPointe community, to now maybe there will be a shift to a tailwind, where now from a structural standpoint, from a policy standpoint, from an economic incentive standpoint, we talked about that a little bit in a previous episode about the topic of health savings accounts or HSAs. That is largely covered by Kelly Means, and how there is a push towards incentivizing financially a system that is going to reward spending money on products and services that are going to help build deep systemic cellular health. Okay, now what's the point? The point is an anticipation that if and when those winds shift and we now have them at our back, that's great. However, it's going to bring on a whole host of programs and gizmos and ideas of the week and fad diets and so forth to try to capitalize on that. And it's more important than ever, this is the way I'm orienting myself, to recognize the position that we have in terms of this program writ large called HealthPointe. Because increasingly, we may have, as facilitators, as coaches, more tailwinds, meaning more people being aware, because it'll be in the media, it will be in the zeitgeist of the country about people losing weight, about getting healthier, about reversing chronic diseases and so forth, which is all great because now you're going to be experiencing these tailwinds. But at the same time, you want to recognize that when you have a tailwind, it's more important than ever that you have proper systems and structures and a proven system. Some of us may have heard, it's an old audio, but actually from Rich DeVos, that was called The Four Winds. And for those of you that have ever listened to that, I've listened to it routinely. It talks in an elegant way. You know, Rich DeVos loved Lake Michigan. He loved sailing. And he talked about how to navigate for the 4 different directional winds that you get when you're sailing, whether it be the fair south winds or the stormy north winds or the east wind and the west wind. It was a talk called The Four Winds. And he did a masterful job on that. What I'm focusing on here is a switch from a headwind to a tailwind. And having done a little bit of sailing myself, and I know the Zampas are big on that as well. What I'll tell you is that when you have a tailwind, when you have a strong wind, I did a sailing trip, which I'll save for the story for another day, but coming from South America to Florida in a little 27-foot sailboat. We've sailed around Cuba. And I will tell you, when we came off the coast of South America, just outside of Venezuela, and we caught those tailwinds. You think tailwinds are great? They are. They're going to push you north like we needed to be pushed. But if you don't have those sails trimmed properly, if you don't have that rudder at a functional and steady, and if you don't have a compass and navigation, you are in trouble. You could be in more trouble with a fast blowing tailwind than you would be with a headwind. And so in the HealthPointe program, what are our rudder, our navigation system, our trim sails? Let's first talk about the system itself. The HealthPointe system, most of us in this community know this. This is not some Johnny-come-lately program. This has been out in the marketplace for decades. Thousands, tens of thousands of people. This is a proven long program. This is not something that says, hey, here's a trend, here's a tailwind, let's concoct some, pseudoscience to throw together and get a bunch of people to start this program. That, at its foundation level, is huge when you have strong tailwinds. What else do we have? We have literally the largest selling brand of vitamin and supplement product in the world, okay? And it's the only brand, the only global brand that grows, harvests, and processes its own supplements on its own certified organic farms. That is a huge, pick your metaphor. Is that your rudder? Is that your navigation system? Is that your trim sails? There will be programs with this presumed tailwind that we'll be experiencing with a shift in policy and awareness in the country. There will be, I've seen it already this week. I've seen another new brand that was announced, part of a program that I'm a part of. And this person that's leading this program, a good person, concocted up their new supplement. I don't know, it may be okay, but all I know is that I would rather deal with a program that started in 1934, to my knowledge has never had a product recall, is a #1 brand in the world, literally doing multiple billions of dollars a year. I would put more faith and trust in that than something that got thought up and formulated over the past 2-3 months. I just have more confidence in a brand. So that is very important when we get this shift in our tailwinds. The other thing I think that is important is that our program has a vested interest in the model to propagate and recruit and encourage others to do that. There have been other good plans out there before there were tailwinds, back in headwinds. There was one, I won't name specifically, but going back kind of in the early 2000s, it was announced by a major, great church leader, as a massive, call it a mega church. And he himself was experiencing very debilitating health and obesity and so forth. And he, with the help of some others, put together this program, and they announced it. And because he had a footprint via the mega church and many church campuses of thousands and tens of thousands of people, they had great impact out of this chute. Where is that program now? Nowhere, to my knowledge. Why? Because if I'm sitting in the church and I hear about this program and I adopt it and live it, that's great. But what about when those around me ask about it? Yes, I'll share that with them, but nothing like also empowering another component of an economic opportunity, where if there was an element within that program where, having done the program and learned the program experientially and kind of becoming a bit of an expert, kind of credentialed in the program, I then have the opportunity to be able to bring them on as a client and help them in that all important coaching and accountability. There was nothing like that in that program that this pastor announced back in the early 2000s. And as a result, to my knowledge, it's no longer in existence. It had its initial crop of people that it impacted and helped, but there wasn't anything that had a built-in mechanism to grow and spread the community and capitalize on the vested interest in that. So I just wanted to weigh in on that, to give us all food for thought, to kind of think this through in this perhaps shift that we're going to experience. And whether it happens or not, it's not going to change my directory. Okay, I've been shouting into the wind, and will continue to do so because I enjoy the space. I love helping people, and we're able to build business with it as well. But if these tailwinds come, I'm ready for the people that say, well, I've got a program too, and I got this too. And I'm not even going to say that they're all going to be bad, but I know that they're not going to have the rudder, the navigation system, the compass, and the trim sails that we have here in the HealthPointe program. And I'm just going to stay steady at the tiller and ride that tailwind into a good sailing. So with that, I'll turn it over. If that prompts any thoughts or commentary, let's chat it out. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic. And by the way, let me also go ahead, David. Yeah,
I love the idea of the compass. That would be the coach, Kathy, helping.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Jamaica spoke so highly of Coach Kathy, and we've all talked about that at different moments on this program. The importance of the community and the coach. Just wanted to check something here. A little bit of a programming note here, and I'll kind of take this odd opportunity to mention it because I thought I might have lost some people. I'm both the host of this and also the Zoom moderator, which means if anybody ever gets bumped off of this program due to a poor signal or something, and then tries to come back in, I apologize. Sometimes I don't see that notification pop up, and I'll figure out a solution to that. But I actually heard about it a couple of weeks ago. Erica and I think Carolyn mentioned that they had lost connection or tried to come in late and they never got admitted. I'm definitely not purposefully doing that. It's just that when I'm hosting and trying to handle all the mutes and controls here, I might not see that somebody has been bumped out or can't get in. So a little programming note on that. All right. Any other thoughts? We've got a bit of time yet here. We're actually running well ahead of time, either on the topic that I covered or that I realize it's a bit of a third rail topic. Hopefully I threaded the needle decently for everyone on that. I guess all I'm pointing out is I'm already seeing, and I'm going to increasingly prepare for what I think is a good thing, which is more and more people. I'll even say this: outside of an election, I saw a trend, and let's just focus on this, a trend over the last, call it a year, 6 months for sure, where more and more people are tuning into and wanting to get healthier. And that might seem like, gee, doesn't everybody always want to get healthier? No, not in my experience. It's been largely kind of a silent growing thing. And it seems like all of a sudden we all kind of woke up and said, whoa, look at the chronic illness and diabetes and other things that are going on in this country. And it kind of hit ahead and changed. Irregardless of our recent political season, I was seeing that change happening. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm also doubling down on my clarity for people to, just like in like a financial strategy, or, you know, you can have all the enthusiasm in the world, but if your financial strategy, investment strategy, let's say, is to pile a bunch of money into something that is predictably going to fail, doesn't matter about your intent. It's a bad strategy. It's going to fail. And so I think we just have to be sensitive and accepting of other people and other programs and other ideas, but at the same time have an increasing amount of stiffness in our backbone and posture that we are very well positioned with the offering that we have. So that's my point on that.
I agree with you, Eric, on that. And even, you know, let's backtrack way before the topic that you even brought up about other programs coming on. I think people are becoming more and more aware. Before the elections, I think people have been becoming aware for quite a while that they're not feeling good. They are overweight. They're seeing the children. They're seeing statistics. Unless they have their head totally in the sand, they've got to be seeing a lot of this. And I think if we just start dialogues with people, simple dialogues, that anybody, and no matter what kind of medical background you've got or anything, just to start talking about the cereals, start talking about the packaged food, just give a few little very elementary topics. I think one of the things that we really need to be cognizant of when we're talking to the public is starting at a very elementary level, because that's where people live. And when we can do that, then we can catch their attention. And I had a situation just the other day. I was at a farm market, and I've known this produce manager for quite a while. And so he was talking to me and asking me, you know, how's business and what have you. And he knew I was a power walker. So we got talking about that. And he said, you know, I need to have you talk to my sister. They want to put her on metformin, and she doesn't want to go on it. And she just doesn't know where to go. She's confused. And there's a lot of people out there that don't know where to go, and they need some kind of a, as David said, compass. They need some kind of a direction, some kind of a program. And even if you know, don't have the confidence that Eric's got in, you know, the whole medical and, you know, thing that's happening out in the huge marketplace, we can talk very elementary to people about HealthPointe, and it's all laid out. That's the beauty of HealthPointe. It's so simply laid out. And so anyway, so I said, well, here's my card, have her give me a call. And so she did. She immediately called. Well, that tells me that she wants help. She wants answers. So we had a nice conversation, and we sat down face to face yesterday. We talked about the program, but more importantly, we talked about her and what she was going through, so that I had a setting of what her situation was. And her A1C numbers, I think, were right around 6, maybe just a tiny tad over 6. And so the doctor said she was diabetic. Well, then she looked it up and she said, no, I think I'm pre-diabetic, but I don't even want to be there. And she said, he just constantly wants to put me on metformin. And she said, I just don't want to go on a drug that I've got to stay on. And I brought out an article to her that I've sent out to everybody, and I'll send it out again, because again, like when Wegovy, the Jermica, I'm sorry, I know a Jerica too, Jermica brought out some of these things that are out there. If you got articles on those, bring those out, especially for me, I don't have a medical background, so I depend a lot on articles that come across, things that I send out, things we talk about. So I just sent her the one, I just showed her the one on metformin. And I said, one of the downsides is that in metformin, people can be on it 10, 20, 30 years. And that's got ill effects over a period of time, even if it didn't have it in the very beginning. Unless you change some things, you're going to stay on it because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so anyway, she agreed with me. And then I said, one of the things that they found was that it really, really destroys your B12 level. And she said, oh my gosh, she said, I have had to take B12 shots. Well, she's already in a situation where she's got to take B12 shots, and now they're putting her on metformin. That's going to make it absolutely worse. And then we went over some of the downsides of if you're short on B12. So anyway, we had this conversation, and so I think you just have to help people to verbalize where they're at and what they're looking for. And I think in that respect, the HealthPointe program will just answer it all because it's such a basic program. And like I say on my HealthPointe webcast, you go on HealthPointe not because you're necessarily even overweight, but you need to keep healthy habits to prevent, or if you are in a situation, then we have to change. And nothing changes unless we change all these things for you. Then he said, all you have to do is the doctor says this, all you have to do is go on metformin and eat vegetables and meat for the rest of your life. Well, that's a pretty cold in your face. That's not a program. Who's going to help you through the down times? Who's going to answer questions for you? Certainly not your medical doctor every day. So that we went over, the balance of the HealthPointe program and how you're eating all food groups, and that you've got a direction, you've got a coach that's going to help you. All of these things, you've got a supplementation. And we talked about that, just what Eric was talking about. So all of these types of things, I'm not going to go into the pitfalls that people fall into with HealthPointe. We'll save that for another day. But I did want to tag team on what Eric said, because it really made me think of my point in yesterday and how this is where people are at. So, I love Casey Means, and I think everybody, Casey and Kelly, everybody, whether it's the Joe Rogan or it's the Tucker Carlson or whatever, or the RFK, whatever, I do think they brought out some extremely important points that people need to be aware of. But even before that, I think people just know that they're not healthy. They're not feeling good. Their children aren't feeling good. They go to the store, they look on the television, and they are getting these, whatever you want to call them, headwinds, tailwinds, whatever wins, they are not feeling good about this. And all you have to do is throw a few facts out there, get the conversation going. And what you do is you create a relationship, and then they're ready to really listen to HealthPointe. And they're ready to listen to HealthPointe, not because they believe it works, because they don't really know that yet, but because they believe in you and the relationship that you have created with them right at the get-go. And that's where your programs that will run across your emails, it'll be splashed across your television or wherever else. They don't know these people. There is no call number. There's no person that they're going to be able to text every day and go through, hey, this, that, the other thing. And like anybody that's been, especially over a long period of time, that's lost a lot of weight and has created a relationship with their coach, they understand that is the number one most important thing. And these 10 HealthPointe pitfalls people fall into, where they try to make HealthPointe their own program, the coach is the person that's going to help them straighten their underwear, get back on the track, and keep going. And so we'll address that at another day. But I did want to really, Eric brought out the thing out in the marketplace, which is so valuable. And I'm bringing it back to the simplistic, hey, tomorrow you're going to be meeting somebody that's going to have a chubby child, or that's got somebody that their doctor wants to go on metformin, or, lose weight or die. That's what a doctor will say, lose weight or die. Well, that's not a program. and how we can help them. And we can help them not only through our own personal knowledge, but for us that don't have PhDs and all of these medical doctor backgrounds, we can help them because we've got a support system through Network 21, through the HealthPointe program that's been around since, oh my gosh, 30, 40 years now. And through audios of successful people. And we've got such a great backup. So all we need to do is just get out there and talk to people and then get them in front of all the intellectual properties that we have at hand. And speaking of that, I do want to just wrap up, Eric, that Tuesday night, we have Dr. Stu Mann that will be our guest speaker. Stu and I kind of piggyback back. I spoke for his group a few weeks ago, and he said, okay, well, I'll speak for your group now. And we really appreciate that because he's just got such a tremendous background, not only in creating a massive diamond business in the Amway business, but also utilizing his medical practice and all of his expertise and running the HealthPointe program through. So I don't know that he's going to necessarily explain the HealthPointe program in detail. He'll talk about the values of HealthPointe and all kinds of stuff. I just told him, you talk about what you want to talk about. It's going to be extreme. So I would say to everybody, get all of your people, not just your team members on, people that are looking at HealthPointe, people that want to be healthy, just people you want to interest in the business. Just say, hey, we've got a medical doctor coming on, very successful, not only in his own medical practice, in his own Amway business, in HealthPointe, in Nutrilite, and I'm sure he'll talk a lot about Nutrilite. And so if we couple that all together and just build the bejeebies out of it, it can do nothing but benefit you. So I really encourage you to promote this coming Tuesday. I believe that's the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, but it's this coming Tuesday. And the link will go out on Monday, but don't wait for the link. Start talking to people immediately. So back to you, Eric.
Okay. Great stuff. Yep. Duly noted on Tuesday. And I love how you routinely bring things back to having kind of a simple approach. Anybody got any ideas as we were kind of wrapping up the program here on some conversation starters or ways of engaging with people regarding health? I wonder if anybody's got any thoughts on that.
Well, I can tell you how I met Eileen. It doesn't
Sure,
get much
yeah.
simpler than that. So we're in the waiting line, waiting to be checked out. And she's in front of me with her cart, and she's got a pile of clothes. So I said, wow, you really did well today. You got a lot of good finds. And she proceeded to tell me how, oh, I put this weight on. I'm sure I think she's told the story anyway. I put so much weight on and we're going traveling and I don't have anything to wear. And oh, I've got to lose weight. I'm going to be gone for 2 months. And I said, that's interesting. And so then the checkout lady took her. And so she disappeared. And I thought, well, I'm not going to let that one go. So I just walked up to her and I gave her my card and I said, hey, listen, throw me a text when you get out to the parking lot and we can pick up our conversation. And she did. And so there was somebody that was open and she sent me the text. We sat down before she left. She was terribly against. She said, well, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. And I don't like lettuce, this and that and the other thing. And I'm social and I don't want to give up my social life. And I said, well, listen, let's not address it.
Sounds like most people.
Yeah. They're going to be gone for 2 months. I said, when you get back, and I'm going to put it in my calendar too, let's reconnect. Well, in the 2 month period, she put more weight on, more joint problems, more whatever. And so she didn't contact me, but I contacted her. And I said, hey, are you still interested in getting healthier and losing some weight? Because if you are, we can have a cup of coffee. If you're not, I'll just toss your card out. And she immediately answered and she said, no, I'm ready. No.
And Carol,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Going back to when you met and you had that initial, that's the key part, right? Is if there's more seeds that are planted, the development of that seed can take a lot of different directions, but take us back to when that seed was planted. You're in the checkout line, pile of clothes, your card, you engaged, first of all, and then did you say when you handed her the card, or was it inherent in the material on your card that she knew you were in a position to help her with health and wellness? What did you say, or how did she know?
Okay, I said, well, I'm a weight loss coach, a weight loss and wellness coach.
Okay.
And so I did that, and then I gave her my card, and my card just, talked about that in general on the card. And so then when I gave her the card, I said, we can pick up on our conversation, because we were already in the conversation of weight loss. So that was already in the conversation, in that 2-minute conversation. One of the things that I think sometimes folks fall into the web of is they feel like they have to create this relationship where they'll die for each other before they approach them on anything that has to do with weight loss, business, whatever. That's not the case. You can very, very, very quickly create a relationship in a minute or two, enough to exchange information and say, let's pick up where we left off. I'd love to get to know you better, and we can pick up on this topic.
I love that. Now you did something else there. I'd like to get you to kind of unpack that. When you handed her your card, you said something specific. Do you remember what you just said that you said to her?
Yeah, well, we were in the midst of the conversation when the checkout lady pulled her out. So the conversation came to an abrupt end, but I didn't want it to. So all I did was I just merely pranced her, slipped her my card, and said, listen, let's pick up on that conversation we were in. I didn't say on wellness, weight, or anything, because she was in front of a checkout lady.
But
I
you
just
said something that, and sorry, I'm sorry to keep interrupting. I just want to be conversational here. You said, if I understood you correctly, you said, text me when you get back into your car, or something like that.
Yes, text me, yes.
Does that strike anybody else as kind of an interesting thing that Carol did there?
It's very important to do that, guys. So make sure that you got the information. Because Carol didn't have her phone number, I believe. She just got her card. Eileen got Carol's card, but Carol didn't have information. So I say, text me. So now she's got a way to contact back to Eileen.
Yes, because if absent of that turn of phrase that maybe is just routine and habit to you guys, to Hank, to you, to Carol, I don't know, is anybody else in my camp that I made that relationship, that conversation, and they likely have interest, but now they have that card, but I didn't do what?
You didn't give them a timeline.
Correct. Yes. That simple prompt, because here's the other part of that is you ideally want their phone number, right? But maybe somebody that you first met, and sometimes, I mean, if it's a woman and they're talking with a man, or me as a man, if I'm talking with a woman, there might be a little bit of uncomfortable, like, hey, give me your phone number, right? I mean, let's just acknowledge reality. So other times I do ask for the phone number, but sometimes I don't. But then I default to just giving my card, and how many people have my card that I never heard from? Carol, what you did is no promises that they'll do it, but you prompted and said, could give me a text when you get back in your, like you were saying, David, gave kind of a timeline, an expectation. And I think people will do that if they're just giving a little instruction. So had she not done that, she would not be here today on our HealthPointe program, 75 pounds down.
And you said the magic word, expectation. The expectation has to come from us. And I think sometimes we come with a lack of expectation posture, and it sometimes is in our verbiage. And so I think when she says she wants to lose weight, nothing fits, and she's telling me all her pain. then if she's got pain, whatever it might be, then my expectation is she wants to take that pain away. And I didn't even have enough time to say, would you be serious about doing something about it? I didn't even say that. And that might have even been too in your face. But by the process of saying, here's my card. She didn't have a card. I mean, this gal's getting ready to go to Europe for two months, you know. But the expectation that when she said, I gotta lose weight, you know, I put so much weight on since I moved down to Florida. She gave me all the reasons.
Right,
I then
Yep.
gave her the card because we were just
Mhm.
like, our conversation was cut right
Mhm.
immediately. I gave her the card and said, call me or throw me a text as soon as you get into the car, and then we can connect and we'll pick up our conversation when you get back from Europe. Well,
And not that it matters because we know the end result. She's here now, 75 pounds down. But I'm curious. Did she? I know that ultimately she did text you, or else we would not be talking. We would not have her and Bruce on the program. But did she actually text you when she got back in the car? Or was it the next day or a week later? When did she text you?
no,
I'm curious on that.
immediately.
Okay, boom. All right. That is huge, guys. I think we can wrap this session for me anyways. Yes. Hank, yes.
Let me throw something in here because I know it's a mistake that I've made in the past when I was learning how to grow the business. We keep trying to sell it instead of giving a direction for their move. Okay? When Carol told her, text me when you get in the car, he gave her a direction what to do. Not trying to keep selling the program because now you're a salesperson. And a lot of times people get turned off by salespeople. I hope that
Right.
makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
You
Totally.
gotta know when to shut it down, right? Just zip it and give it directions, see if they'll follow through.
And guys, this what you're talking about, Hank, there on zipping it. I'm guilty of it because I geek out on this stuff, and it's not unique to HealthPointe or weight loss. In my integrative oncology program, they're talking about when you're onboarding someone as an advocate, the tendency and here's their turn of phrase. They say, you show up and you throw up. You show up and throw up. You've got to zip it. Yes, you need to inform. Yes, you need to educate. Yes, but you also need to listen, and it's got to be right information at right time. And so what they hit on time and time again is a natural tendency, particularly as you're new and growing in the field, is to show up and throw up. And you will lose good people if you show up and throw up. So thank goodness you did not, Carol. You connected. You and Hank, to your point, you kind of shut it down. You maintained the posture, and then you said, when you get back in your car, I even like the specificity of that, the specifics of that. It's not like, hey, in the next little while. It was like, because I'm thinking like me as a prospect, if somebody like contacting me about, I don't know, financial planner, insurance salesman, or something like that, if they say, hey, here's my card, even if I have some level of interest, I just know that goes into my pocket. And even if I have interest, 3 days later, that card probably drifts. And if they say, hey, shoot me a text, that's too broad. Okay, it helps. But if they say, when you get back in your car, send me a text, I almost feel like I can't like drive away without sending a text. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, I love
Well,
it.
the same thing happened with the gal yesterday. It was the day before with her brother, and her brother says, I would love my sister to talk with you. And then I said, well, here's my card. Have her give me a call. So now I'm in the driver's seat. I'm giving already the first direction. Gave him the card. He gave it to her, and she called. And so then I said, okay, I answered with a text because I wasn't in a situation where I was going to be able to spend any time with her. So I said, I'm tied up right now. ready to go on a Zoom. So that makes you feel more important. Whether you go on a Zoom or not, it doesn't matter, but you can say that. I'm ready to go on a Zoom. What's a good time tomorrow? And we can connect live on the phone. And so she answered right back, gave me the 2-hour window because she's a working girl. I said, great, I will call you at blah, 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 10 o'clock. Well, that was the call, Eric.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
were talking-
yeah. I remember
yeah.
that. I
So
remember
I,
that for sure.
yeah, so we talked live, but we only talked, excuse me, for about 10 minutes. And I said, you know, I'd like to get to know you better, but I think what we need to do is sit down and talk and find out what your situation is, and then we can see if we could work together on this. And so she gave me an appointment right away, and boom, you know. So yeah, it's the directional expectation, I think, within a person's voice sometimes. And that's why listening to audios is so important, because I think if you listen to enough of those HealthPointe audios, you will come across with that expectation. And let me tell you, I got a million that didn't work.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do. Well, as we move into this era, I mean, technique is part of it. So thank you so much for enriching our understanding on these little fine points. Just that one technique alone could really move the needle, because as we know, like with Eileen, she's gone on to, her and Bruce have gone on to influence others. And so there's that ripple effect and so forth. So these little technique shifts can really move the needle for a community and so forth. So thank you so much for that. Thank you everyone that contributed across the board. Unless there's anything else pressing, we will put a wrap on this episode of Voices of HealthPointe, and we'll see everyone same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Everybody have a great week.